the work done. So, for those who are here with me today, that's great. But I'm also going to be talking to the people who are going to be watching the recorded version of this as well, because I know that there's going to be a mix of how people listen to this presentation. Like Chad said, I started out in my career doing major international sport events. I worked with the Olympic Winter Games, Rugby World Cup, worked with the US Olympic Committee. So those really are some of the biggest brands in the world. And it was interesting to start getting experience working with organizations at that scope and at that scale. That was an informative time for me in seeing how businesses of that size build their audience and use different marketing channels over a long period of time to build relationships. A big takeaway for me from working with those organizations was how, even though they're huge businesses and huge projects and huge events, they work very, very hard to build relationships over a long period of years through every means available to them. And so when I started my own business 8 years ago, I'm a small business owner. I'm sure many of you listening in are small business owners as well. And I certainly didn't have the budget of an Olympic Games, or, the human resources of a Olympic Games, or the time of an Olympic Games staff, but I still had to be effective in building relationships for my business to market it. And so that's something that I really looked at very carefully over the years. What are the options available to me and to my clients? And that's the type of information that I'm going to be presenting to all of you. And tactically, we're going to look at how to win at social media, even with no budget today. And the whole series that we have coming up has that same philosophy. So hopefully that kind of grounds you in my approach. Now, a few quick housekeeping items here before we jump into the content. First of all, I do encourage everybody to be on mute as I'm presenting. And even when I'm asking questions to you as we go along in the beginning, I encourage you to use the chat, because that'll be least distracting for everybody involved. Once we get to the question section at the end, if you do want to unmute yourself, I'm happy to manage it that way as well. But I do encourage you, even though I'm suggesting that we be on mute, I'm encouraging you, if there are any distractions happening on your end, that you're able to mute yourself. This is a good time to do that, whether that be silencing your phone or shutting off a messaging device. When I present, I try to pack a lot in, and I find that you're going to get a lot more out of it if you're thinking about the material in the context of your business. So try to focus in as much as you can during this time, and I believe you're going to get more from it. Now, like I said, I do pack a lot of information in. So this slide deck is going to have quite a lot of slides that have a lot of information on them, or things that you may want to copy down. So I wanted to give you a heads up that the full slide deck, an additional worksheet, and a number of blogs that I've curated for this session, I've loaded them onto a landing page of my website. And I'm going to make sure that you have a link to that. And I think it's already in the chat now, but we're going to make sure that you've got that link as we go along, so that you can access all of that. And I believe that the recording that's being produced by the Paris SBDC, that'll be available to you separately, but everything else is going to be loaded onto that page. And then in terms of questions, a couple things here. So I will ask you some questions as we go along. If you're with me live, that's great. You're welcome to put your answers into the chat and give me an idea of how the material relates back to your business. If you're not with me live, I encourage you to just take a moment to think about your answers to those questions before you move on. And that way you can really use this material and make it a living, breathing thing for your business. Any questions that you have, I encourage you to save those and save them for the end. So write them down as you have them. And then if you still have that question by the end of the presentation, I'm happy to take any questions of yours at the end of the session. So let's start jumping in. Let's lay some groundwork. I want to get some philosophy out there so you know what's to come in this presentation. Here's how not to use social media. I find that the default setting for a lot of business owners is to go really hard with social media in a lot of different ways, both in terms of our messaging and in terms of doing a lot at first and then burning out. I'm a big believer in consistency and slow playing it with your audience, and slowly building a relationship over time with social media, not just trying to sell, sell, sell. So I'm a big believer in this idea that social media often requires more finesse than we're giving it, such as what you might have expected me to do in a picture like this. Probably could have used a little more finesse in this particular shot. But that is not how a lot of small business owners use social media. So I'm hoping that if you're somebody who could use a little more finesse with your social media approach, that you'll be you'll get some ideas today that'll help you implement that and execute that. Now, here's how we'll talk about it. First, we're just going to lay some groundwork and talk about why are you social media marketing? What are the goals, objectives you could be trying to achieve with social media? Then we're going to look at matching the purpose that you've identified with your target market that you're trying to reach. Then we'll talk about two specific areas, two of those objectives we've identified in the first section in a little bit more detail. We're going to look at showcasing your brand and creating conversation, which to me are the two areas of social media that we need to do. We need to do both of those things in order to have a good social media marketing strategy. Now, for those of you who have come here for this purpose, I wanted to say upfront what we are not talking about today so that you know that you can get time back in your day. So here's what we're not talking about today. We are not looking at paid advertising. This is social media, even with no budget, right? So we want to look at organic methods of marketing your business on social media. So I'm not going to be focusing in on any of these paid advertising conversations, whether it be things like boosting or retargeting or pixels or geo-targeting or pay-per-click or ad budgets or lookalike audiences. All of these things are really interesting. There's a lot to say about them. I'm not an expert in those areas myself. I find them very, very nuanced. I've certainly dabbled in these areas, but for me, this is an enhancement of a social media strategy. It is not your entire social media strategy. So the reason I'm not covering those in the context of this presentation is that the tools that were on that previous slide, those things can expedite the reach of an already good social media marketing plan, but they are not a replacement for a social media marketing plan. If you don't have a strong plan in place that you're executing before you start advertising, you're probably going to end up wasting a lot of the money that you spend because it won't be used as efficiently. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you a couple of examples to give you an idea of what I mean by that. But hopefully by the end of this, you'll really have a better sense of all the things that you can be doing for organic relationship building, whether or not you are advertising. To give you a quick visual of this, let's say you were really thirsty and you wanted to drink some water to quench your thirst. Would you pour that water into a cup or into a sieve to drink out of it? So if you're pouring water into a sieve, it's got all these holes in the sides. The water's going to keep spilling out the sides, and you're not going to be able to collect enough water to drink it. So this could go on all day. You're going to keep pouring the water in, it's going to keep spilling out, and there you are still thirsty. Whereas if you pour the water into a cup or a glass that has no holes in the sides, the water fills up, you drink it, you're done. So our goal today is to talk about the social media marketing plan. How do you plug up the holes that may be in there? Make sure that you've got a solid plan so that in the future, however you spend time or money to get new leads and start pouring those new leads into the vessel, they're not going to spill out the sides, and you can build those relationships until those people can become your customers or your partners or whatever it is you're looking for them to be. So hopefully that metaphor gives you a reason why we're approaching it this way. I wanted to say this up front to make sure we're all in the right place. And if we are, let's go ahead and talk about how to win at social media, even with no budget. Okay, let's jump in. And, first things first, I'm a big believer in setting the groundwork and making sure that we know what we're trying to accomplish. So why are you social media marketing? Well, there could be potentially 5 objectives that you're trying to reach with a social media marketing plan. So let's cover those. That first one is building your brand. Now, this is a really interesting one to me because some years ago, not that long ago, we didn't have so many options for our business for how we were going to put our brand message out there, right? There weren't a lot of things within our control to be able to do that. If you wanted to be able to get featured, maybe you were looking at an earned media feature like a TV or radio or newspaper or magazine. Those were the traditional media outlets And if you were very, very lucky, maybe you'd get an interview, maybe you would get a feature. You could probably advertise in those sources under your own control, but to be able to get a feature in something like that was very rare opportunity that a lot of business owners were clamoring for. If you did get one of those opportunities, it was great for your business. All the eyes were on those sources. It was, a lot more traction and visibility for your business. On the other hand, you had no control over the final edit, right? You might have put raw material out there, but you couldn't control what exactly ended up in a printed, article, or what exactly ended up in a radio interview feature. There was an edit process that happened there that was not under your control. So that was the old model. We had other things that maybe were within our means. Maybe you could put flyers out there, but there just weren't as many channels of getting information out that was under our own, under our control, that we were empowered to say the message we wanted to say. We have flipped that model now, where there are so many ways to get the message out for your business that are under your control, that are often free. And you get to decide what you say about your business and what information you share with people over time. That's a huge amount of power that we have. Now, of course, because we can all do that, every channel where we would do that is so saturated that you have to work very hard over time to get people's attention to visit you and your profile or your page, wherever you're trying to market. But nonetheless, if you can get somebody to visit you, let's say on a social media platform, can you get them to understand exactly what you want them to know? Can you get them to receive the message that you were trying to put down before they walk away? So that's our goal in terms of the building the brand piece. Social media is a great place to get the elements of your brand out there. We're going to talk a lot about this piece later. Now, a second goal you could have is building your reputation. But building your reputation is really important. In some of the research that I've done for other presentations, I've dug a lot into the psychology of marketing. And there are several different personality types in the buying process. All of them need some kind of validation, though. The validation may look a little different from person to person, but they need some sort of a confirmation that the decision they're making is right before they make the decision to buy or sign the contract. So as business owners, it is incredibly important for us to validate our businesses, to show that we're good at what we do, that we're worth somebody signing that contract, or spending that money with us, saying yes to working with us. And we have to show them that in our content and in the information that we put out there. We can do it humbly, but we still need to show what makes our businesses an authority in our area. And so that's something that you can do in social media. There are a lot of ways that you can subtly or overtly talk about the things that show that your business is strong and that you know what you're doing and that you're experienced at what you do. So this is an element that we can put out there, again, because we control the content that we put out there. Now, part of this, but also its own thing, is creating community. Now, I say it's part of number two because if your community is bigger, it just perception wise, we tend to think that that means you have a better reputation. If more people are eating at a restaurant, we might think that that means the food is good, but we don't actually know that. We just know that there are a lot of people eating there. So yet we still have this experience of, the more people are flocking to something, must be worth flocking to. And so community sort of relates to reputation in that way, but it's also its own thing. You can proactively work to build community for your business, and you probably should if you want more customers. So building community is something that we can do both with the customers we're trying to reach and with other businesses who are also reaching our audiences, so that we can really start building a network and a word of mouth engine around our businesses. And this is something, this is a great feature of social media. You can be proactive all day long and look for people that you want to bring into your community. Now, a fourth goal you may have is generating leads. I believe generating leads is a byproduct of doing the first three things well. If you've got the brand, the reputation, the community, and then you give people a way to connect with you directly so that you can have a one-to-one conversation. Now this is your lead. You can control the sales conversation from this point. And our goal is to create a mechanism where we can start doing that on social media. On social media, there are a lot of people who can observe you from afar without identifying themselves. And we want to get as many of those people as possible to start becoming a reliable lead for you to be able to follow up with in the future. And then we've got generating sales. Now, to me, this is a byproduct of doing the first four things well. If you've got that brand, reputation, and community, and then you give people a means of connecting with you directly through social media or through somewhere else, now you have the ability to get back in touch with them, to track that conversation, to track their feelings in that conversation, their objections, whatever you need to overcome, you can now do that because they are in your sales pipeline. Obviously, as business owners, you're marketing on social media for a reason. So you want to generate sales, and I get that. But here's the counterintuitive part of social media. If you are going to social media and all you were doing is one sales post after another, it tends to drive the audience away. Maybe you've seen this. Maybe you've seen some other business that does this. Maybe you do it yourself, where every single post is a sales post, a discount, buy this now. It's a picture and a price tag. There's constantly pressure to buy a thing or a service from somebody's, some business's account. And what does that do to the audience? We think as business owners, that's our goal. We're here to get sales. But the audience came to social media to engage, to be amused, to waste time, to see what's happening in the world, to see what's happening with the people that they know. They went there for completely different reasons than buying your stuff. So in order to get their attention, we often need to lean into the reason they came to social media if we want to get sales, which I know, again, it's really counterintuitive, but this is why I say social media is a slow burn relationship building place. If you're looking to get those sales out there, social media is going to be a really frustrating place for you if all you're doing is sell, sell, sell all day long. If you can create conversation, which takes time, if you can create that conversation, then you're much more likely to build a solid relationship that will turn into a sale later on these types of platforms. So if you came here looking for me to give you advice on how to go viral right away, you're probably not going to get that. But what you are going to get is good slow build relationship building techniques that will help you build that sales pipeline over time. So whatever you're deciding to do with social media, I encourage you to pick a strategy. It could be a hybrid of some of those strategies, but think about how you're going to weave some of those elements into your plan and the content that you're putting out and the way that you engage with people. Make sure you have a strategy in mind on any platform that you're using. It doesn't even have to be the same across. If you're using multiple social media platforms, you can have slightly different techniques or slightly different goals that you're trying to achieve. That's fine. Just have a purpose in mind, because that will help keep you directed in how you post and how you engage. So the question for you, and this is the first one that I want to pose to anybody listening in right now, which of these strategies make sense for your business? Now, if you're on with me live, you are welcome to throw your answer into the chat here, but if you're not, if you're watching the recorded version of this back, please still take a moment and think about this question for your business. On social media, which of those strategies make sense for your business? And if you're on multiple platforms and you want to pick one that you're thinking about right now, just focus on that and think, would building my brand or reputation or community or leads or sales, which of these things do I want to go for? A lot of times people have a couple answers, 2 or 3 that are sort of the top for them. And that's something that I want you to really hone in on and think about as you're considering the rest of this presentation. When we talk about what to post, how to talk to people, how to engage, it has to come from this place. At the end of the day, we're trying to achieve something. We're not just posting to post. We're posting for a purpose, because we're there to represent our businesses, and any of these goals are good goals to try to achieve. So Again, take just a moment, think about which of those strategies make sense for your business, write that down for yourself, commit to that. And then we'll start moving forward in the presentation so you can think more about how to weave that into your strategy overall. Now, having said that, let's keep moving on. And let's say you found that purpose that you're trying to achieve. Maybe it's more than one. What do you do with that now? Well, we want to make sure that it matches up with your target market and that your social media strategy is taking both of these things into account, the objectives you're trying to achieve and the specific audience that you're trying to reach on whatever platform it is you're on. So I know I'm going to say the words target market a bunch of times in this presentation. So let me stop here for a second and give you a working definition for what that actually means. And, target market those are the people who are most likely to be interested in your product, service, program, idea, whatever it is you're selling. These are the people who would be most likely to buy it. And, on social media, we get all excited about how many, those high volume of people available to us on any given platform. Millions of people are available to us. Great, but you don't need to reach millions of people. You only need to reach your audience specifically. And your audience is going to be a subset of all the people that exist on that platform. These are the only people that you need to reach because these are the people who over time, they may be ready to buy the thing that you sell. Those are the people that you want to be in front of. That'll be far more efficient for you in the long run. So the question becomes, which target markets are aligned with your social media strategy? For your business, you may have many different audiences you're trying to reach. If I'm speaking to small business owners, there are many different ways to classify small business owners. And I have to take that into account in all the places where I market or any places where I speak for that matter. But when I'm on social media, there may be specific segments of the population that I'm looking to reach on any given platform. I'm on a few different platforms and I have a slightly different audience I'm trying to reach on each of them. So I take that into account when I'm using those tools. And I encourage you to do the same things. If you have more than one target market, which a lot of us do, which ones are aligned with your strategy on whatever platform you are on? And you can cherry pick that and you have a different one for each platform if you feel that's appropriate. Now, again, your goal is to reach your target market, not everyone. So you really want to focus in, hone in on the things that you're saying to them and the people that you're engaging with based on, again, matching that purpose with that target market. So let's look at a couple examples of this, of just how I would try to match that purpose with the target market for two different types of business objectives. Here's the first one. We're going to look at a business-to-business example first. This first example is, let's say your company is trying to attract human resources directors of local companies. Now, with this example, let's run through the first 4 objectives, thinking, sales will come if you can get these things done, right? So if you are reaching human resource, or if you're trying to reach human resources directors, the first thing, from that brand standpoint, they're going to want to know what it's like to do business with you. Does your value system align with their value system? Is the process of working with your business going to be aligned with the process that they want to go through? They're going to look for information like that. Value system, process, all of this is going to be rolled into your brand. So you're going to want to give them information about that through however you're communicating with them on social media or anywhere else for that matter. Then they're going to definitely want to know more about reputation. Is there anything that you can present to them that's going to show you're good at what you do? Stats, accolades, anything at all that can show them that it's, yes, we should feel validated in hiring this supplier. Even if this particular human resources director is the sole decision maker, which they often aren't, let's say they are the sole decision maker, they still usually need to back up the decisions they make somehow. So give that information to them up front, make it really easy for them. We can do that on social media. Now with community, in some cases, a human resources director might be thinking about the health of their organization as a whole. their company as a whole. They may be looking at, you know, they might want to build relationships with other companies that are currently not within their network. And maybe you bring them a degree of connection closer to somebody else that they want to reach. So showing the strength of your community can really show them the possibilities for future relationships that they may want to build as well. So feed that type of information to them on social media or anywhere else. Now, when it comes to generating leads, how would you do that with a human resources director? And this is a really big one to consider with any model that we look at like this. How would you reach a human resources director directly on social media? What platforms would you use and how would you reach them? Sure, you could be on Facebook or Pinterest, but are they going to be on those platforms? Are they allowed to use those platforms during the day? If you engage directly with a company on Facebook or Pinterest or YouTube or any of those other places, are you going to be getting a human resources director or their social media manager? And will those messages translate? Probably not. So where are you going to find the human resources directors? Where are they hanging out? How can you engage with them directly and know that you're reaching them? Maybe you're more likely to find them on LinkedIn. Maybe there's a community group on a platform like Facebook. Maybe there's a hashtag that they're all following on another platform. So this is the stuff that you have to start looking for to say, not only what platform do I need to be on, but where within that platform. It's like you're in the right house, but are you in the right room to have the conversation that you need? So these are the things that you need to consider. Now, this is a business to business audience, but let's say you want to talk business to consumer, B2C. Here's a different example. What if your business is trying to attract engaged couples who are planning a wedding? Couldn't be a more different example on this one. So let's look at this again through that framework of the first 4 tools. From a brand standpoint, it's not really about you, is it? They want to know how you are going to make their day, right? They are going to want to feel like, oh yeah, I can envision how you're going to showcase my big day. And so really flipping the lens and letting them see their day through your eyes is going to be important on social media. Reputation is obviously key here too, because it's going to be hopefully one of the best days of their lives. So they need to know that you are going to be responsible with that you're going to do a good job with that you're good at what you do. So again, showing them reputation that they can entrust you with their big day is going to be an important part of the process. Now, part of that, again, community. If you can show them examples of, other happy couples that you've been able to serve at their weddings. If you can show examples of other suppliers and vendors that you work with, maybe you have a great network and you have a proven history of being a great team player at a big event like this. Those types of things can really show them what they need to know around, does this business have a network? Does this business have a proven history of doing good work? Well, seeing your community can be part of how they answer that question. And now when it comes to generating leads, if you've helped them see all this through your eyes, now help them imagine those results and now give them a way to connect with you directly so that you can follow up with them. And, any means that you can do of getting them to contact you, that's the goal here, so that you can turn it from I'm looking at pretty pictures and videos to now I'm going to have a conversation with this company. So when we're looking at a group like this, where would you try to reach them? What platforms would you use? Where would you try to engage with them? Chances are, for a lot of businesses that are trying to reach this audience, they're going to look for more visual platforms, maybe video platforms as well, like could be images, could be video, could be, platforms that let you use a little bit of both. There's a lot of options for that when we're talking about social media, but really think about where are these couples, where are they looking to get ideas for their own weddings? That start with there. And then you start to answer questions about what platforms you should be on and how you should be engaging there. So again, hopefully you're seeing that just kind of going through these questions, matching up those objectives with your target markets completely changes your approach on how you would use those social media platforms. Now, I want to dig in a little bit more to 2 of the objectives. So let's spend a little time looking at showcasing your brand. And this is a really big one. We've talked about how this is a huge advantage that we have now with social media. You get to say whatever you want to say about your business. But I've already said, you don't necessarily want to spend all day, every day, just telling them to buy stuff, right? If all you're doing is selling, you're probably not going to get a lot of people who want to interact with what you're putting out there, which means the fewer people that are interacting with it, the fewer people are going to see it on most platforms. Most social media platforms are looking to show content that is relevant to people. So we all put content out there, but they're going to be looking for proof that this is worth showing to more people. So they tend to slow build it themselves and say, all right, well, I'm going to show it just a little bit of people. And then if people seem to like it, we'll show it to more and more people. That's how it often works on these platforms. So you want to have people engaging. You want people to be paying attention to what you're saying so more people can see it. So there's an idea here that I want to introduce that's very important for social media, though I do challenge you to think about how you could use this outside of social media as well. There's something that we call selling without selling. And sometimes, you might even refer to this as something like chum posts, this idea that if you throw it in the water, you get people kind of hovering around your business. So what can you do to get people talking about your business, to get people engaging with you in your business? Well, this is where we start sharing other information, like talking about concepts or ideas, talking about our value system, talking about philosophies we have, sharing stories with people, or maybe tapping into senses or to emotions. If you have content that's relating to those areas, and you get conversations going and you get people hovering around your business, you're far more likely to be able to sell and get people in your sales pipeline from that position than if you're just hard selling to them all the time. So now, just to give you some examples of this, I'll show you a few examples from my social media platforms, which I tend to do more with concepts, with value system. Those are two that I hone in on quite a lot. So I'll start there, and I'm going to give some other examples after this that aren't things that I use a lot of. So here at the top left, we've got this: you are gaining wisdom on this upward climb. This is a motivational post. I do this every week. And I'm generally reaching small business owners. And I happen to know that small businesses are hard to run. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's not easy. You have a good day, you have a bad day, you have a good 5 minutes, you have a bad 5 minutes. I mean, these things happen for us. And a lot of times we need encouragement. And a lot of times there's nobody around us to give it, because we, in many cases, operate in a silo. So this is a way that I can be encouraging, which is a value system that I have in my business. I want to be encouraging in how I talk to people about marketing, and encouraging in general. So if I put content like this out there on a regular basis, I find that it tends to attract other encouraging people, or people who want encouragement. I've even found that when I post stuff like this, if somebody comments in a way that suggests they're having a bad day, I'll get other people from my community jump in and encourage them, because those are the types of people that I'm attracting with this content. And that's the kind of people that I want on my page. I want people who are going to be nice to each other. So that has been an intentional thing that I do, and that's around value system. Now, to the right of that here, we've got this one-liner from a blog. Cross-marketing is a content pillar unto itself. You can read this in a matter of seconds. But if you're interested in this, you now know that there's a full piece of content about it. And I would, in the description, put the link to that so people can get back to my website and read the whole thing. You don't have to pay any money at all to read this. But what this tells you is Melissa does marketing. Melissa knows about marketing. I can come to this page to get marketing information. That's what I want people to be thinking. I want to establish my purpose without people having to buy it straight away, so that that's just planted in their minds. So that's, again, this is going to be more in the area of what type of content am I going to be putting out there? Well, I'm going to be considering ideas and theories here, and that's leaning into this. Now, at the bottom here, we've got this podcast feature. I've done quite a number of interviews on different podcasts, and so I like to show the community aspect, and I like to be able to feature those on my pages from time to time. So this is something where I really lean into the community element. And that's both, a goal unto itself, and it's also part of my value system. So, these are some examples of what I do that's selling without selling. And you will also see, I'm showing the link to how to get to my Instagram here, or you can check out Facebook. You can get examples, real-time examples, case studies of how I actually use posts like this, because I sell within the selling without selling posts. So I encourage you to check that out and see what I might mean by that and how much you might use those approaches for your own business. If you have content that's mostly about something like this, and at the end you make kind of like a signature line with a casual sales message, maybe, just maybe, you can get people to take a call to action that you want them to take. So that's something for you to look at and explore later. But I also wanted to show you a couple of other types of marketing approaches that you can take with selling without selling that I don't do a whole lot of. So if you were to go to my pages and look for examples, you're not going to see a lot of examples of these things. So I wanted to give you those examples here in this presentation. Let's say you have a business where you can really tap into the senses. That can be a great thing to do for businesses. Not something I do a lot of, but here are a couple examples of tapping into touch, sight, hearing, smell, or taste. Here's one from Aston Martin. I always find it interesting to look at companies that are not advertising to me and see what they're doing. So here we've got one with a roar of the engine, vantages, and hot pursuit. We've got these hashtags, we've got these beautiful images. And there's a lot coming across to us from a sensory standpoint from this post. We've got the roar of the engine. You can hear that sound, hot pursuit, that's a feeling. These images are really specific. That blurry background you're getting makes you almost feel the speed. They're choosing to get a moving vehicle, not a still vehicle in these images. And that's a very specific choice. And then you look at that bottom right, you can almost feel what it's like to sit in that interior, maybe on a sunny day with the sun coming through the windshield. So, what probably wouldn't work for Aston Martin is Vantage equals dollar amount, right? That would be sticker shock for a lot of people, I'm guessing. It's not going to build the relationship. It's not going to make this an aspirational purchase for them. It's going to be probably an unattainable purchase for a lot of people if they did that approach. But what they're doing here is they're making you feel that you want this vehicle. And if they've got somebody paying that much attention and like sticking with them for all these messages, maybe it becomes their dream car, and maybe now they want to go get it when that's available to them. And at that point, they'll be so convinced that they're willing to work up to the price tag versus, showing somebody a price tag up front and then making a decision whether they can afford it or not. You're probably going to lose more people along the way. So this is how they're choosing to use social media. Now, I'm going to give you another example, and it's a presentation from me. So we're doing sweets. That's what's happening here. For me, it's early in the morning, and I'm here to talk about cookies and fudge. So we've got two different posts here just to really hone in on that. Again, Nestle Toll House, well, they could have chocolate chip cookie equals dollar amount, but that's not the approach they're taking here. Where they're selling me on this is I look at that picture on the left, that cookie at the bottom, it's split open, right? You got that one chocolate chip that's kind of oozing onto the table. So here's what I know about this cookie. It's hot. It's fresh out of the oven. It's melty. It's soft. This is the cookie I want. And that is what is going to make me want this cookie, not cookie equals price tag. So they're really playing here with the images, with just showcasing what it is you can eat. And even just by being on this slide for as long as I have, maybe now you're starting to want sweets. Because if you can stick with this image long enough, it's probably going to get your brain operating on a marketing level in a whole new way. So these are some things for you to think about with sensory marketing. For some of you, marketing on emotions could potentially work as well. And this is one that I don't do a ton of. There are certain types of personalities that respond better to this than others. And there are certain businesses that can play with this more than others. And if this works for your business, this is something that you should try to tap into and see what the results are. Lots of different emotions that you can play with here. We've got some examples of words on this slide, but let me show you some real life examples. Here's one. I mean, goodness, this company, Kleenex. It's all about emotions here. Yeah, it could be about not feeling well, but it can also be about being sad, right? And what, you need Kleenex to help you solve that problem. So there is comfort in knowing we're not alone, and there can be strength in sharing our vulnerability. Share hashtag all the feelings you're feeling. Even so even though we're apart, we can feel together. I mean, goodness, look at these images. They have a whole carousel of images that make you feel sad. And hopefully their solution is sitting right next to you so that you can grab a Kleenex and solve this, this problem they're creating with their post. So this is a tactic a lot of companies use, and it makes a lot of sense for this one. Here's a different example, but it still plays with emotions. We've got the sleep lady. And this graphic says your baby who got through the last sleep regression and was finally sleeping well day and night is suddenly waking early from her naps and up all night. You can feel the frustration oozing off of this post. If this is your experience and you read this, you're going to be nodding your head and going, yeah. What's the solution? And so you're assuming that the sleep lady is going to have something they suggest around this. And here we got, look at the link below to learn more about the 7-month sleep regression. Oh, the sleep lady is providing an answer to this very problem that I have, right? So they're tapping into what probably is going to be frustrating. You're going to be concerned for your baby. You're going to be tired yourself. And they're tapping into that and then telling you, I know this is your problem and I have some suggestions on how to solve it. And that is how they're getting people to their website. So when you think about all these things, I didn't run through every single thing, but hopefully this gives you enough examples that you can start playing with it. What can you engage with in your marketing? Concepts, values, philosophies, stories, senses, emotions. Really think about this. If you're on with me live, you're absolutely welcome to put an answer into the chat as you start thinking about this for your business. But if you're not on with me live, still take a moment now to look at, the answers to your previous questions and now add this to the list. Which of these things work for you when you're posting, when you're engaging? Which of these can you tap into in what you're putting out there on social media? How can that enhance your brand and conversation with your audience? And it can be more than one. You can, have a few of these different things that you're doing, but as you start to root yourself in those ideas, it helps you think about what you want to post in the future, what you want to say to people in the future. So this gives you a good foundation to work from. Again, just use the tools that you have that forward your purpose for your specific target market. Everybody's answers to these questions that I've been asking is going to be a little different from business to business, and that's great. You want a strategy that's going to work specifically for your business. Now, I want to touch one more area here, which is creating conversation, because to me, a good social media marketing plan is going to do both around creating good content and creating good conversation. So the question here would become, and this is something for you to think about for a moment. Does your social media strategy right now prioritize posting or engagement? Again, if you're on with me live, you are welcome to throw your answer into the chat, but if you're not, just take a moment. This is a self-assessment opportunity. What's our baseline here? If you were to grade yourself before I've given you any other information, does your social media strategy prioritize posting or engagement? Sometimes when people answer this, they'll say one or the other. Sometimes they'll give me a percentage split. You can answer this however seems right to your business. This is a self-assessment, and we want to see by the end of this if you feel like you need to change anything about that ratio. But to me, both of them are equally important. And I know that I haven't defined engagement yet. So this self-assessment is before I have defined it. But now let's start talking about what that means. Again, we want to get people talking with your business and about your business on social media, because that is how notifications happen. That's how more reach happens. To get people engaging and having a conversation with you gets more other people, new people, to discover your business as well. So when I say engagement, yes, I do mean if somebody comments on something you've posted, certainly respond to that. That's, I'm hoping, a given. We don't want to ignore people who have reached out to us directly. But I also mean being proactive, going out there, out into the world of social media, finding people who could be in your target market, who could be partners to your business, engaging on their content and bringing them back to your page. This is a great technique to use. The more engagement you're doing off your page, the more engagement you're going to get on your page. That is what I have found. So engagement can look like liking or reacting to other people's content. It can look like comment marketing, which is an actual thing. Commenting, usually we don't mean selling on somebody else's page, but asking good questions, showing that we're hearing them, validating them, and then getting them to say, who is this great person who's coming up in my notifications? And then discovering that by clicking back to you. Could be sharing content if that content is relevant for your business. It could be finding hashtags that are, people are having a conversation and getting into that conversation and being part of it. So this is all engagement you can do off of your page to bring people back to your page. Again, if you can, you want to be engaging as your business, if that's an option on the platform. But eventually you want those people to connect you back to your business. Now, here's a couple of examples. I told you up front that I was going to show you, why am I not talking just about paid advertising today? So I'm going to show you two examples of a company that maybe is creating conversation and one that is not. Now, here's why I chose these examples. Looking at the two examples that I'm giving you, I looked at the posts around them. And when I looked at the quantities of reactions and comments, I assume that the posts that I'm showing you were advertised. I don't know that for sure, but I believe they were advertised just based on the volume. So here we've got one of Starbucks. And this is an example, I believe, of creating conversation. Now, there was so much to show you here. I actually didn't even show you the post itself because I wanted to get all this other stuff on the screen. What we're seeing here, 3,800 reactions to whatever this post was, 372 comments, 412 shares. Here's something I want you to pick up on. Every single person who commented, and there are a lot more comments here that I was not able to show you. I only have so much space on the screen, but every single person who commented got a comment back from Starbucks. If they commented again, Starbucks commented again, whether it was a question or a compliment or concern, they responded to every single thing. Now, this does a few different things. Number one, more comments is going to yield more notifications, is going to yield more reach, is going to yield more other people seeing these posts that they're putting out. So they're doing a lot to help themselves get more reach for whatever they advertised here, just by engaging with the people who got back to this page. Now, a second thing is, if you're one of these people who commented and you get a comment back from the company, how does that make you feel, right? As a consumer, what does that make you feel to be heard and responded to and acknowledged? Third thing is that this is public. So you and I can see that Starbucks responded to every person. And we can see how they responded to every person. So this adds to our perception. Everything that we understood about this company before, we're going to add this to that. And that's going to become the new version of our perception of Starbucks, right? So, and, I love the stuff Chad's jumping in with, makes you feel valued as a customer, helps to create a connection with the company. So this is just to give you an idea. Now I'm going to show you an example that's different from this. And this is not a company that I thought would be giving a different example. This is from, you can see this example is from a little while back, but this is a Halloween post for Hallmark, right? And again, I'm assuming that they advertised this because of the volume of reactions, but compared to where we were with Starbucks, hardly any comments, hardly any shares. You look at this, Hallmark is nowhere to be found. There are not even any of the likes on any of these comments. There were people who had questions or compliments or concerns. There was one person who said, your prices are way too high. And somebody else jumped in and said, yeah, they sell 99-cent cards. That was a sales opportunity for Hallmark that they ignored, that they just didn't jump in on. So not only did they not do anything to prompt more engagement or reach for the people who were already on this post, these people can see they didn't get responded to, and so can we. So you just take that and you add that to whatever you understand about this company, and it becomes part of your new perception of Hallmark. So, you can, again, if you're advertising, that's great, but there's so much that you can be doing to boost your community outreach organically, even when you're advertising, that will improve the engagement rate around your advertising. So I hope you're really thinking about all of this in the context of engagement. The last thing that I want to say is, as we think about all of these things, where are you driving these conversations? What happens if the platform you're on disappears? You don't own any of these social media platforms. They can change their terms and conditions. They can be glitchy. So we don't want to just have a conversation live on social media forever. We want to get it somewhere else that we can control. So again, this is where you start thinking about, if you're doing all this work, selling without selling, creating engagement, how can you start getting people back to your website, back to an email list, back to another place to have a conversation with you, to a webinar, to an event, anything that will allow you to have more control over that lead than you would have on social media. So that's something to think about. And it is something that we'll look at more in future webinars. So to wrap this up here, because I know we want to leave a little time for questions, why are you social media marketing? Purpose and target market, showcasing your brand, creating conversations. These are the things that we talked about today. And questions in any of these areas are totally valid here, or other aspects of social media marketing, but I just wanted to remind you what we covered here. For those of you who are on live, if you do want to ask a question, this is a great time to get those questions in. And as you're doing that, quick reminder on what's coming up. Over the next 3 weeks, we have 3 more presentations coming up. So the first one will be next week, September 16th. We're going to talk about pinpointing your brand and target market, great foundational information for marketing your business. Then we're going to talk about profiting with partnership marketing. I'm a huge fan of this one. As businesses, we can support each other and we can build our audiences together as a result. And then that last one is my favorite one to present because it can be so impactful to businesses. So create a profitable marketing strategy. We're going to talk about how you create a marketing strategy for your business that's going to help drive more sales and relationships. If you save time for any of these, I encourage you to save it for that, because that can be the type of thing that really gets you thinking about your business in a new way. So I'm happy to take any questions now. Quick reminder, here's that landing page link where I have the slides, additional resources. I even have an exercise on what attraction posts or what selling without selling posts would be good for your business if you want to brainstorm that. So this is how you get all that information. And if you have a question that you didn't get to answer, have answered,